In this lecture, I am going to talk about properties of Hilbert transform. So let us look at some interesting properties of Hilbert transform. Just like we appreciated the properties of Fourier transform and the Laplace transform. Okay, like Fourier transform has some properties. Similarly, if you take Laplace transform, also has some properties, right? In the similar way, this Hilbert transform also has some properties. These properties are important for us also. So let us discuss some basic interesting properties of Hilbert transform. Now the first property is that we know that x of t, if you take Hilbert transform, I will denote by h of t, then you will get x hat of t. Then take Hilbert transform of x of t, again take h of t, then what we will get? We will get minus x of t. Okay, therefore the first property is Hilbert transform of x of t, again take one more times Hilbert transform, you will get minus x of t, because in x hat of t the signal undergoes phase reversal of minus pi by 2, right? X of t to x hat of t, what is the phase reversal? Minus 90 degree. Then x hat of t, again if you take Hilbert transform, I am sorry, this is not a, this is equal sign actually, equal sign. Okay, x hat of t, if you take a Hilbert transform, then it is going to be x double hat of t, and which is equal to minus x of t. Why minus x of t? Already you have minus 90 degree phase shift with respect to your x of t, and again you are introducing one more minus 90 degree phase shift. So totally it undergoes minus 180 degree phase shift. So therefore, if the signal, let's say x of t is like this, then positive becomes negative, negative becomes positive. So essentially, after 180 degree phase reversal, then the signal is going to be like this. So obviously this is minus x of t. Therefore, if you take 2 times Hilbert transform, finally you will end up with a minus x of t. Okay, so x double hat of t is equal to minus x of t. This is the first property. And the second property is you take x of t is equal to cos of 2 pi f naught t. Now what is x hat of t? That means we are asking the Hilbert transform of the cosinusoidal signal. Hilbert transform, what is this? So no need to go to mathematical and all, simply you can say, we said Hilbert transform introduces minus pi by 2 phase shift for every positive frequencies. That means there is a phase shift of minus pi by 2. Therefore, this is going to be cos of 2 pi f naught t minus pi by 2. Okay, cos theta minus pi by 2 is equal to sine of 2 pi f naught t. Therefore, Hilbert transform of cos 2 pi f naught t is equal to sine of 2 pi f naught t. I am sorry, this hat will not come. Sine 2 pi f naught t. Similarly, you can find the Hilbert transform of sine 2 pi f naught t. Okay, so this is going to be minus cos of 2 pi f naught t. So these are very useful and simple signals. Okay, this cos omega t and sin omega naught t. So you can find obviously without going through that convolution operation. Okay, to find this, you should no need to go to like x of tau times 1 by t minus tau into d tau, like x of tau equal to sine of 2 pi f naught tau multiply by 1 by t minus tau and d tau. So these kind of circus and all not needed. This kind of things no need. Simply by applying the concept, you can find the Hilbert transform of sine 2 pi f naught t and cosine 2 pi f naught t. Okay, so you have to judge for yourself whether it is more beneficial to use a frequency domain relationship to find the answer, or to use a time domain relationship to find the answer. It's up to you. Okay, so in cos 2 pi f naught t, it is much better to work at the frequency domain, because in the frequency domain we said that every frequency components gets delayed by minus pi by 2. Now how many frequency components are there in this? So this is a typical question which is asked frequently. Only one frequency component. And what is that component? F naught. It doesn't have any other frequency other than F naught. So only one frequency, single frequency component. This is called a single tone signal, single frequency component. So I know what happens to the signal, because F naught is positive. For positive it introduces minus pi by 2. Therefore I can simply write down the Hilbert transform. So nothing to struggle much for sine 2 pi f naught t, cos 2 pi f naught t. Now in general, suppose let's consider a complex sinusoid, that means complex exponential signal e to the j 2 pi f naught t. Now what is the Hilbert transform of this? So you have to be a little careful, this guy. Okay, so this is going to be e to the j 2 pi f naught t. If you take here f naught is constant, by the way. Okay, so this is going to be minus j times signum of f, because at that particular frequency component what is the phase shift that will be introduced here, times e to the j times 2 pi f naught t. Therefore if you take e to the minus j 2 pi f naught t, then if you take Hilbert transform, then it is plus j times signum of f naught t, f naught e to the minus j 2 pi f naught t. And one more thing, I did a mistake here. One second. 2 pi and here also 2 pi. The reason is this parameter and this parameter should be both same. There should not be any difference. So please convince yourself that this is correct. Okay. So you have to take into account the sign of this exponent. So this is a thing that comes directly here. So when you have a real signals, there you have positive frequency components as well as negative frequency component. So it makes sense to say that positive frequency component is shifted by minus pi by 2 and the corresponding negative frequency component is shifted by plus pi by 2. Okay, that is multiplied by plus j or minus j. So this minus j indicates minus. Okay, so when you have a complex exponential, then you have only a single frequency component, either positive or it is negative. So whether it gets multiplied by minus j or plus j will depend on whether the exponent is positive or whether it is negative. Okay, if this frequency is positive, then you multiply by minus j. If the exponent is negative, then multiply by plus j. See here, this is in this case this is positive, therefore you multiply by minus j, and here this is negative, you can bring this inside, then it is negative, so you put plus here, that's it. In fact this I can write e to the j times minus 2 pi f naught into t. Okay, so therefore if you take then it becomes plus j signum of 2 pi f naught e to the minus j 2 pi f naught t. That's it, Hilbert transform. Now the next property is what can you say about energies of x of t and x hat of t? Is there any difference in energy? Will it be same or will it be different? That's what we need to find out. Okay, the answer is the energy of x of t is the same as the energy of x hat of t. Why? Because if you take transfer function, it is not giving any attenuation or no amplification, it is 1. Okay, so 1 means what? No amplification, no attenuation, therefore no change in energy and power. Of course energy, because it is not periodic signal. If it is a periodic, then we will talk in terms of power. If it is a aperiodic signal, then we will talk about in terms of energy. The energy of x of t is the same as the energy of x hat of t. Okay, if you look at in the frequency domain, again x of t, if you take Fourier transform, you will get x of f, and x hat of t, you take Fourier transform, that is Hilbert transform of x of t, you take Fourier transform, then you will get a like this. Okay, so this indicates Fourier transform of the x hat of t, Hilbert transform of x of t. That is, you first you take x of t, then take Fourier transform, sorry, Hilbert transform, you will end up with the x hat of t, then you take Fourier transform. Okay. Therefore, in the time domain, what is the relation? Y of t is equal to h of t convolved with the h of t. In the frequency domain, y of f is equal to h of f times I'm sorry, this is x of t, right? X of t, x of f. Now this one we called x hat of t. So if you take Fourier transform of this, x hat of f, therefore this is let me prove this properly. Like you have a signal x of t, you take Fourier transform, you will get x of f. X of t, if you take Hilbert transform, you will get x hat of t. Then again if you take Fourier transform, then you will get x hat of f. Okay, Fourier transform of Hilbert transform of x of t. Now this is your Hilbert transform filter. The input is x of t, and this is your h of t, and the output is y of t, and that output will be denoted by x hat of t. Now what is x hat of t? X hat of t is h of t convolved with the x of t. Therefore, it is in the time domain convolution. The frequency domain, the convolution becomes multiplication. So this becomes capital X hat of f. This is h of f and x of f. Right. Now if you take what is h of f? Minus j times signum of f. Now you find the energy in the transform domain and in this domain also. If you take mod magnitude and here also magnitude, then x hat of f becomes x of f. Therefore, energy of x of f is the same as energy of x hat of f. Even if you take Hilbert transform, the energy does not change. So from Parseval's theorem, the energy function can be written in terms of the following relation, like x square of t into dt is equal to into dt. So this equality holds Okay, this equation is the same for both energy of x of t and energy of x hat of t, because this I can write as x hat of t. Similarly, if x of t was a power signal rather than energy signal, you could again check that power will remain the same both in the normal domain and Hilbert transform domain. Okay, so therefore the next point is, the important point is, x of t and its Hilbert transform x hat of t have the same power or energy. Okay. The next property is quite interesting. So you can almost deduce it from the case of sine wave. The property says let x of t and x hat of t are orthogonal. So recall what we mean by orthogonal from your signals and systems. Okay. So when I say x of t and y of t are orthogonal, then their inner product and integrate from minus infinity to plus infinity, then which is equal to 0, then you call x of t and y of t are orthogonal. This is important property. Okay. So similarly, let us say x of t and x hat of t are orthogonal. Okay, then if that is the case, then x of t multiplied by x hat of t and integrate over minus infinity to plus infinity, then it should be 0. Okay, so this is a property that we should remember. Now you take a signal cos of 2 pi f naught t. What is the Hilbert transform of this? Sin 2 pi f naught t. Now what is the relationship between these two? Are they orthogonal or not? Yes, they are orthogonal because they are 90 degree apart. Okay, they are orthogonal to each other. In general, one can show very easily that x of t and its Hilbert transform x hat of t would be two orthogonal signals. Therefore, we know this. You can check this actually. Cos of 2 pi f naught t times sin of 2 pi f naught t and integrate from minus infinity to plus infinity is equal to 0. Don't take minus infinity to plus infinity, you can take any integer number of cycles and you can find out that it is going to be 0. So mathematically this is written as x of t and x hat of t times dt is equal to 0. Okay, so of course this statement is for energy signals. For power signals there will be a slight modification, okay, of this statement mathematically. Now how do you prove this? One way is to substitute for x hat of t in terms of the convolution integral and see what happens to this integral, like x of t and its convolution integral is like x of tau 1 by t minus tau d tau, you put like this, and dt like this you can do. Okay, using time domain you can prove that. A slight generalization of the Parseval's theorem also you can use it. There is a generalized Parseval's theorem available which talks about two functions, integral of the product of two functions. Okay. Like you have two functions, let us say x of f and x star of f times df. By Parseval's theorem this is. Okay, then using this you can prove that. Okay, so you can think for real signals like x square of t, you can write as x of t times x of t. For example, now 4 you can write 2 times 2, right? A square you can write a times a. Now if it is real, then a conjugate is same as a. Therefore for real signals this x of t is the same as x conjugate of t, right? Now if you take Fourier transform, this is going to be x of f and this is going to be x conjugate of f. Okay, therefore in the time domain the energy of the signal is x squared of t dt minus infinity to plus infinity. By Parseval's theorem in the frequency domain also that should be same, right? X of f times x conjugate of f times df. Now what you do in the time domain, x square of t is equal to, let me write x of t times x hat of t dt, and is this correct? From this to here, it is correct because the energy doesn't change if you multiply x of t with x hat of t. Okay, so the corresponding thing in the frequency domain is going to be x of f times x hat conjugate of f into df. Because of conjugation, hold on, just I did a mistake. Minus j times signum of f times x conjugate of f. Into df. So therefore this is j times signum of f, and this and that if you combine you will get a x modulus of squared of df. Now you can ask what kind of function do you have inside the integral? It is an odd function of f. This becomes plus, actually this is plus. Now you are integrating from minus infinity to plus infinity. Okay, so now this is taking modulus and square it, that is an even function, and this is odd function. If you integrate an odd function from minus infinity to plus infinity, that integration leads to 0. So what do you have in the left hand side? X of t and its Hilbert transform of x hat of t into dt. Therefore the signal x of t and its Hilbert transform both are orthogonal. It's a proof. So this proof we have done through Parseval's theorem. Where is it? Yeah. Okay, we started from here. Energy in the time domain is equal to energy in the frequency domain. So this is the energy in the frequency domain. Okay. The left hand side, see what we want to prove is like x of t into x hat of t into dt is equal to 0. So the same thing in the frequency domain is this one, x of f times x hat of conjugate of f into df. This is t. So that's how the proof went. Okay, x square of t I can write like this, then x of t into x star of t. If you have x star of t, then in the frequency domain it is x conjugate of f. In the time domain x of t into x of t I can write like this. And in case if you have the thing like that, x Hilbert transform, then in the frequency domain also you have to take Hilbert transform. That Hilbert transform is like this, j times signum of f times x conjugate of f. Therefore this j times signum of f is there, and this x of f and this x conjugate of f becomes modulus of square of x of f. And since it is an odd function, this integration leads to 0. In the left hand side you have of course this one. The left hand side, this one you have it. Therefore the signal x of t and its Hilbert transform are orthogonal to each other. Okay, so you must judge in the case of problems in Hilbert transform So decide between frequency domain approach or time domain approach. Sometimes frequency domain is easier, sometimes frequency domain is easier. So in this case it is easy to show in the frequency domain, but if you were to proceed in the time domain, it will be much more involved to prove the result, because you have to x of t and its Hilbert transform is like integral of again x of tau 1 over pi minus tau, sorry, t minus tau d tau, and 1 by pi will come here and dt. So in this proof is little cumbersome. Okay, one more important property, that is the last property. It is a very important property, is the following. So this is something slightly more involved. I will just state the result here. Again, I ask you to see if you can prove it. If not, we will discuss it in one of the upcoming lecture series, in upcoming lectures. Suppose you have two signals. I will call them C of t and m of t. See, there is a specific notation why I chose C and M here. Here C indicates, let's say, carrier, and here M indicates, let's say, message. Generally, let us take a human being voice, human voice signal. The voice signal ranges from, let's say, 300 hertz to 3300 hertz. Like this, it keep on. I'm sorry, this is not its spectrum may looks like this, it's a spectrum of your voice signal, power spectrum, S of omega, power spectrum. Okay, if you take real signal, then the spectrum, this is 0, this is omega, S of omega. Whatever you draw here, the same thing you should draw here. The negative frequency also minus W plus W. Let us take 4 kilohertz, and this also minus 4 kilohertz, because as I said, for real signals there exists a negative frequency component. And you take C of t, it is very high frequency, maybe here. This, it has a spectrum like this, let's say an impulse or some spectrum like this. And this spectrum both will not overlap. So in that way we are considering, so not overlapping spectra. Since they are not overlapping one of them with each other, the low frequency components excuse me okay, they are not overlapping. One of them will contain the lower frequency component, the other will contain the high frequency component. So this is a low frequency component, and here this is a high frequency component. This is power spectrum of C of t. Power spectrum. So without loss of generality, let us say m of t be the low pass function. And C of t is the high pass function. So low pass means its spectrum occupies the lower frequency component, maybe centered around 0. Look at here, it is centered around 0 or close to 0. And high pass means that it could be the other way around. Okay, it occupies the higher portion of the spectrum. Then if you consider the Hilbert transform of the product of these two functions, like m of t times C of t, Hilbert transform product of these two functions, then it is going to be m of t and Hilbert transform of C of t. You can prove this. So the Hilbert transform of the product of m of t times C of t is equal to m of t times the Hilbert transform of C of t. Okay, so you can prove this. Okay, let me leave this as an exercise. Okay, if it is necessary, then we will discuss afterwards, but it is something that you have to sit down and prove it up. So now there are some corollary for this. So there are certain things we can derive from this property m of t times c of t. Let us assume c of t is equal to some sinusoidal signal like cos of omega naught t, where omega naught is, let's say, very high frequency, let's say 550. No, I cannot say very high frequency, let's say high frequency 550 kilohertz. Okay. Now what happens? M of t times cosine of 2 pi f naught t. If you take Hilbert transform, then it becomes m of t times sine of omega naught t. Similarly, you take m of t multiply by sine 2 pi f naught t, then it is going to be m of t times sine of 2 pi f naught t Hilbert transform of sine 2 pi f naught t as per the formula. So this is going to be m of t times cos of minus cos of 2 pi f naught t, and that minus let me put here. Okay. So here c of t is a high pass signal. We call this c of t as a carrier, okay, carrier signal of some high frequency omega naught, and m of t has a frequency which is much lower than omega naught, probably up to 4 kilohertz. Highest frequency of m of t is smaller than omega naught. The highest frequency of m of t is, let's say, 4 kilohertz, because it lies from 0 hertz to, let's say, 4 kilohertz. So this is the highest frequency, and this highest frequency is less than omega naught. So that's what we mean by non-overlapping spectra. So this is a very important special case, these two. This is very, very important special case. Okay. Okay, so it will become m of t times the Hilbert transform of cos omega naught t. So it will be m of t times sin omega naught t. Similarly, m of t times sin omega naught t becomes minus m of t times cos omega naught t. So this is more or less a reasonably good introduction to Hilbert transform definition and its properties. Okay, we next look at the application of the Hilbert transform in representation of signals, particularly representation of bandpass signals. As I said in the beginning of the lecture, that Hilbert transform has certain very important applications. Like the first one is representing bandpass signals. And the second application is used in SSB AM systems. Now let us look at the next concept. The next concept that I am going to introduce, a new concept which is based on Hilbert transform. Okay, and it is a concept of analytical signals. Now let us say x of t is a real valued signal, like your speech signal. It's a real valued signal, right? Real valued signal. Let me first give you a little bit of motivation for this. Okay. So I'm sure you had a course on signals and systems, that it is much more convenient for analysis to work with a complex representation of the sinusoids than the trigonometric representation of the sinusoid. Okay, because as I said, cos omega naught t becomes sine minus sine omega naught t, or let me take cos t it becomes minus sin t. If you differentiate, then again if you differentiate, minus cos t, and keep on shuffles. But the moment if you take e to the t, then it becomes et, then et, then et. Whether you integrate or differentiate, nothing changes. So in this case, in the sense that e power jt, or let me e power jt or e power t is an analytic expression of cos omega t. Let us say e power jt. Of course, the j factor will come in front, it is not an issue. Therefore, e power j omega naught t is an analytic expression. Analytic expression for cos omega naught t. Now, look at very carefully. What is this cos omega naught t? It is a real signal. And now, what is this? It is an analytic signal. Analytic signal of what? Cos omega naught t. And what is this? This is a complex signal actually. Why is it complex? We know that complex valued function. Why is it complex valued function? Because we know that e to the j theta is cos theta plus j into sin theta. It has a real part and imaginary part. Therefore, for every real signal, there is an corresponding analytic expression. Why do we need this analytic expression? Because handling of analytic expression is much more easier than the real signal itself. That is why we move from cos omega naught t to e to the j omega naught t. Okay. Here cos omega naught t is real, e to the j omega naught t is complex valued function. So, for every real signal, there is a corresponding analytic expression. Okay. So, the same kind of concept we want to generalize for any arbitrary signal. So, this is a specific signal I have taken here. You take cos omega naught t, that cos omega naught t is called a real signal because you can physically observe or physically you can generate in the lab. Cos, sorry, not this, this is not cos. Cos, this is 0, time axis. It is a real signal. For every real signal, there is a analytic expression. What is that analytic expression? E to the j omega naught t. Why do we need this analytic expression? Because manipulation is very easy in this case. So, this is a specific case I have taken, but now what I am trying to say is you can take any signal, any arbitrary signal. For that I can construct an analytic signal. Like for cos omega naught t, the analytic signal is e to the j omega naught t. Similarly, for x of t also I can construct an analytic signal. Therefore, not necessarily only sinusoidal signals will have analytic signals. Every signal can have an analytic expression, and when I say analytic, you should always remember it is in the complex form. Okay. And obviously, from our analogy with a real signal, from our analogy with the sinusoidal signals, such analytic signal must necessarily be a complex signal. So, we need to define or introduce the concept of an analytic signals, which is obviously going to be very complex. Okay, it would have the similar simplification which is offered by the normal complex exponential representation of sine wave. So, let me introduce the complex analytic expression representation of x of t. Like as I said, why I am bringing this again and again is like it is easy to digest how this analytic expression is, what the analytic expression is. E to the j omega t, its analytic expression is e to the j omega naught t, cos omega naught t. What is this? This is cos omega naught t plus j times sin omega naught t. Similarly, for x of t, I can construct an analytic signal. That analytic signal, let me denote by xp of t. This is the analytic signal of a real signal x of t. So, x of t is real and this is analytic signal of x of t. Okay. Now see, you have complex exponential. That complex exponential has real part as well as imaginary part. Similarly, this guy also has real part plus imaginary part. So the real part is denoted by x of t and its imaginary part is j times its Hilbert transform. Now you can get the connectivity between x of t and cos omega naught t. See, cos omega naught t, if you take Hilbert transform, you will get sin omega naught t. Cos omega naught t, its analytic signal is e to the j omega naught t, and in the real and imagined part notation, it is cos omega naught t plus j times. I am not using Hilbert transform here, okay. I am simply using e to the j theta formula. What is e to the j theta formula? Cos theta plus j times sin theta formula, that I am using here. Now see, the x of t is coming as it is, and the same x of t is taken Hilbert, for the same x of t we have taken Hilbert transform, that becomes sin omega naught t. So therefore, instead of x of t I am going to write, instead of cos omega naught t I am going to write x of t. This becomes xp of t. It's a simple notation, that's it, xp of t, which is equal to the same x of t comes here plus j times its Hilbert transform. So this is the analytic expression. The reason why I put the suffix p here, I will tell you a little later. Okay, there is a reason why we use this p here. Okay, therefore this is a complex valued signal. xp of t is complex valued signal. There is a very specific reason why I put a p, the suffix p here. Now xp of t is the complex valued signal and its real part is the same as the real valued signal with which we started. Okay, we started with the x of t, right? So the real part is, this is the real part plus imaginary part. So the real part is the same as the real signal x of t with which we started, plus j times the imaginary part is going to be the Hilbert transform of the original signal. What is that? X hat of t. Therefore xp of t equal to x of t plus j times x hat of t. So an analytic signal has this composition. Okay, so it's a real signal and real signal plus j times its Hilbert transform. So you can always compare like this: e to the j omega naught t is going to be cos omega naught t plus j times sin omega naught t. Similarly, xp of t is equal to x of t plus j times x hat of t. So this is a specific form. It's a more general form. Okay. So we will try to get used to this and try to develop a feel for this representation. Also we will see what it can do for us. Now let me again discuss conceptually what the significance of this representation is. Suppose I work with a signal like this. My real signal is cos of omega naught t plus theta. Now I ask you to visualize the signal, as a waveform. It is a product of two signals. I forgot to put m of t here. So product of two signals, m of t times cos of omega naught t plus theta. So it is a product of two signals. You have m of t and you have cos of omega naught t plus theta. So we are going to discuss this kind of signals in detail when we discuss the modulations. But this is a good time. As any other to discuss. So what is the nature of the signal? How does it look like? M of t times cos omega naught t. It's a product of two signals, right? We assume this m of t is like a low pass signal and this is high signal, high frequency signal, maybe in the range of 4 kilohertz and this is 550 kilohertz. Okay, let's say your signal is slowly varying like this, and you have another signal carries high frequency, it is keep on changing like this, it's a cosine waves like this. Now this is your m of t. M of t, this is your C of t. Multiply these two signals, then what will happen? Your carrier will vary between these two like this. Okay, here the highest frequency component of m of t is much smaller than omega naught. Okay, now the product signal is a fluctuating signal. It is fluctuating. That fluctuation is with respect to your m of t. It is the same cosine signal, cosine wave signal cos omega naught t with the same with some instantaneous amplitude, which is governed by the value from m of t. Now one can ask, what is the instantaneous amplitude at time t? How will you answer this question? It is m of t or something else, because you have m of t times cos of omega naught t plus some phase angle theta. Okay, now let me expand this. Cos a plus b equal to cos a cos b minus sin a sin b. So m of t times cos of omega naught t cos theta minus sin a sin b sin of omega naught t sin of theta. Now you can answer me, what is the instantaneous amplitude? If I want to go from let us say this is equation 2 and let us say equation this is number 1, go from equation 2 to 1, this m of t always has a positive quantity. Why? Previously, see, it is varying like this, here m of t is positive and here it is negative. Now this is my zero line. Okay, this is zero line, but here the m of t is not coming to the negative side. Okay, so m of t is always positive here in this expression. M of t is always positive. Okay, so and how will you find out this m of t, or how will you find out like the amplitude is given by like m square of t times cos square theta plus m square of t times sin square theta. How does this expression comes? Because you take this equation 2 with like suppose you have ax hat plus by hat. What is the amplitude or magnitude of this? Square root of a square plus b square, right? So instead of x hat and y hat, we have cos omega naught t and sin omega naught t. Both are orthogonal. Like Orthogonal means perpendicular. So this is x hat and this is y hat. Similarly, in the signal space domain, it is cos omega naught t, and this one you can think in terms of sin omega naught t. Both are 90 degree apart each other. Therefore, equation 2 I can write as m of t times cos theta times cos omega naught t minus m of t times sin theta times sin omega naught t. Now, instead of x hat, I have cos omega naught t. Instead of y hat, I have sin omega naught t. Okay, instead of A, I have m of t cos theta. Instead of B, I have m of t sin theta. So, the magnitude is square root of a square plus b square. Similarly, here it is not simply magnitude, it is instantaneous magnitude because it is a function of t. Okay, therefore, this is called instantaneous magnitude. So, m square of t, m square of t cos square theta plus this minus you can observe here t and sin square theta. Now, this m square of t you can take commonly outside, m square of t times cos square theta plus sin square theta, this is equal to 1. Therefore, this is going to be, magnitude is going to be mod of m of t. So, that is the instantaneous amplitude. So, therefore, the sign information will be lost of the message signal. M of t has to be positive function. Originally, the m of t was like this. It has a negative part and a positive part. Now, once you multiply with the carrier, the negative part will be lost. So, what I am saying is that the instantaneous amplitude is governed by the modulus of m of t, not by m of t. Okay, positive value of m of t. Therefore, the instantaneous amplitude is governed by the modulus of m of t, that is modulus of m of t. For example, the original signal was like this, slowly varying signal. This is my m of t. Now, this is my carrier, and the carrier is oscillating like this with a certain frequency omega naught. Then if you multiply these two guys, then it looks like this, So, it oscillates between like this. Now, this is a zero crossing line and this is zero crossing line. You have negative component in original m of t and this is your c of t. Once you multiply m of t times cos omega naught t, then the instantaneous amplitude is not m of t, it is magnitude of m of t, because there is no negative part here. Look at here, this is also positive. Originally it was negative, the negative part becomes, see, this negative part becomes a positive part here. So, therefore, the instantaneous amplitude is governed by the modulus m of t, magnitude of m of t, the positive value of m of t. Therefore, m of t itself will be positive and negative, but here it is completely positive. Okay, this is the original signal. Original signal. Okay, so it was going positive and negative. Now, once you do the multiplication, then the signal looks like this, and I know it is a sinusoid of high frequency, this one, but the envelope is different. Now, what is the instantaneous of this sinusoid? That sinusoid is that instantaneous envelope is going to be m of t, modulus of m of t. Okay, so I am talking of amplitude as against this m of t. Okay. So therefore, so the important reason why I brought this here is you can see the amplitude variations are dependent on the magnitude of m of t. See the variation of the sinusoid, amplitude variation, let me write properly. Amplitude variation of the sinusoid depends on the magnitude of m of t, not m of t, magnitude of m of t. So this is the magnitude of m of t. Sometimes people call envelope of m of t. So basically this is called a trace of the signal. And the envelope fluctuations are slow fluctuations compared to the carrier frequency, because the carrier is varying very fastly because it is high frequency. So envelope fluctuations are also called slow fluctuations. And now if you look at this m of t and cos omega naught t together, this is called band pass signal. Why is it called a band pass signal? Originally m of t was a low pass signal because its spectrum is around 0 hertz like this. The moment you multiply with the cos omega naught t, the spectrum is translated to the frequency with the center frequency of omega naught. Therefore the spectrum looks like this, right? So this signal is called band pass signal. It is no more low pass signal. So whenever you have this band pass signal is conveniently represented by using analytic signals and using Hilbert transform. So I think this is a good point to stop. So the next class we will continue. Thank you very much.